And globalism unquestionably puts downward pressure on wages, makes it difficult for people to buy health insurance, makes it difficult for them to go to college. Federal Reserve last year said that if almost 50% of households, if they have an unexpected bill of $400, they got to sell something in order to be able to pay the bill. So there's no question that we need to make adjustments. And I think what Hillary's proposing comes closer, although in her case as well, she's ignored entitlement. She's made it more difficult as a consequence of not doing something about pensions, because I happen to agree with the governor of Rhode Island. I don't think you can be a liberal.
Look, Donald Trump has been campaigning on this from the get-go, globalism, and basically saying, look, I'm running for the president of the United States, not the president of the world. Hillary Clinton literally really is a globalist, although just recently during the campaign she said she's not going to do TPP.
No, but my problem is his solutions. I understand what you're saying, but his solutions are tariffs. His solutions are protectionism, and protectionism never works. What's worked over the last 100 years, especially since the Second World War, is a liberal economic idea of transparency, certainty where your investments are. It's reduced poverty globally. That's the big idea that not only Americans but the rest of the world increasingly has been embracing. And I don't see that coming out of Trump. What I see coming out of Donald Trump is this is all bad. We got to protect ourselves.
There's very little daylight between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton on trade, number one. Trump has stopped talking about these tariffs. He stopped talking about those potential tariffs on China for months now, for that very reason, because it bothered conservatives, quite frankly. I'm guessing, but certainly people who are conservative don't want to hear about tariffs and trade wars. But Hillary Clinton, in terms of trade, she's at odds with President Obama on the Trans-Pacific Partnership.
She's having to defend NAFTA. I wish she'd defended it better in the debate. I think NAFTA has worked. NAFTA has been a success, in my view, but to describe it, he didn't do this just to get the nomination. He proposed tariffs on Mexico, proposed tariffs on China in order to win the Republican nomination.
Well, how come we still lose money in our trade to Mexico then, if it's so good?
Well, I mean, at the margin, we're losing money with trade to Mexico. Look, part of the problem with these trade agreements is it's very difficult on a short-term basis to say who's winning and who's not. But long-term, there's no question that lowering the tax on merchandise that comes into the United States, eliminating these barriers, and they can be difficult. And there's no, I'll repeat it again, there's no question it puts that and immigration and technology puts downward pressure on wages. Right. But I think the reaction against it is what troubles me.
Okay, what about the other half of Trump's agenda? Isn't the answer to all this not restricting trade, not restricting immigration, but getting economic growth going again? And he's talking about a much lower tax burden on business. He's talking about less regulation, drill baby drill to let American energy, to let us get all the benefits of that. Isn't that the answer? Doesn't a lot of this trade and immigration angst go away if we get back to 3 or 4% economic growth a year?
Yeah, I think that's true. I don't disagree with that. I think if you can lower the corporate tax rate and do something to repatriate money, I think if you can particularly get safe harbors on infrastructure investment. I mean, we wouldn't build the interstate highway today as a consequence of 404 permitting process with the Corps of Engineers. So you can't just propose infrastructure. You've got to somehow make certain that infrastructure is going to create jobs, going to increase productivity. But right now what you've got is actually the Democrats, I think, better on infrastructure. And the Republicans, in my view, are better on taxes and regulation. And you do need to get some kind of a grand bargain.
That's a big deal that you just said. I mean, the Republicans better on taxes and on regulation. Yeah. We know what has been hampering this economy and keeping businesses from spending money. It's regulation. Why doesn't Hillary Clinton have a tax reform plan and a plan to roll back regulations?
Well, I can't answer that question. I don't know what the answer is, but I don't think she.
Well, she thinks the government's the anser. I mean, liberals and Democrats always think that government knows better, that bureaucrats know better, and politicians make better decisions than the individual.
You just made a sweeping generalization that includes me. I'm a Democrat, and I don't think you can create jobs by hating the people that create them. And I very much acknowledge 500. If I knew how to allocate capital, I wouldn't have been a U.S. senator. I understand that Congress sometimes pretends that it knows how to do something.
But you're not running for president, Senator.
I understand, but a sweeping generalization about Democrats is what I'm objecting to.
I guess this is the question with her, is she has been raising that tax hike. It started out in the 500, 600 billion range. She's now at about $1.5 trillion. Added a bunch of new items to please the left wing of her party in the last few weeks. Is she doing this for political necessity, or do you think she actually believes that's a growth strategy?
I think she actually believes that the bigger problem here is if you're going to make globalism work, you're not going to make globalism work by repealing Obamacare, because you've got way too many people that simply can't afford to buy insurance. You're not going to be able to do it by ignoring the cost of higher education. You're not going to be able to do it
without making... Why are we focused on making globalism work? How about making America work?
Because America is the big leader in the world. We're on the planet. We lead these things. We led it after the Second World War. Yeah, I mean, you put the agreements at Bretton Woods on the ballot today, they'd probably get voted down. Yeah. Look what they've done to lift the economy, not just of the United States. It benefits us, certainly, but there are times as Americans we have to lead.